Hello, hello. Welcome back to 70s Daydreams. And today we are doing a very short one. It is 70 by Robert Breer, and it's about 4.5 minutes long. You can find it on YouTube.
I really liked this one. This one is another abstract experimental piece. There's no plot or dialogue. I don't even think there was music.
Nope, there was no music. It was totally silent, and I think that's the first time that we've had a silent one. Like, we've had no dialogue ones, but we've never had a totally silent one.
Which I always like silent films because then you can always play whatever you want over it or not and just sort of take a break from sounds. Well, if you have any sensitivity to flashing lights, you should not watch this one because there's a lot of flashing lights.
Absolutely, yeah.
So just that disclaimer. So this one was very pattern oriented, a lot of repetition. There was a lot of shapes and colors that were sort of just moving in repetitive patterns.
Mm-hmm. And it was periods of movement and patterns and shapes and color followed by a black screen, and that would just keep happening throughout it, where you would get the visual aspects, and then it would be black, and then it would go back to the visual aspects and then black again.
Yeah, to give you a little pause. I really liked this smudgy look of some of the frames. It almost looked like a pencil, that someone had smudged with their hand. Some of it actually really looked like spray paint.
It was spray paint. So it was made with spray paint and stencils. That's how it was, and 16 millimeter film.
Okay. It had a really lovely grainy quality that added to the it almost kind of reminded me of pointillism in a little bit, which is an art movement, I think from France, where all of the brush strokes are just little dots, like a dot matrix printer. There was a lot of triangles. Triangles are my favorite shape. Mm-hmm. And it kind of looked like a mountain at some points where it looked like a mountain that was rising because the triangle was going up and growing. And then at one point it kind of looked like a sail from a sailboat where there were this amorphous shape that was kind of swaying a little bit across the screen. And that had a really nice movement that reminded me of a sailboat. A lot of oranges, reds.
Some words I would describe this one would be abstract, avant-garde, this is something for sure that if I was walking through an art gallery would be projected onto a wall, as part of an experience or something like that. That's what it reminded me the most of, which was a really interesting experience to have sitting home watching YouTube. I really felt almost like I was in a museum watching it. And I actually had a question for you because you had sent me this one on TikTok that it had music to it. And I was wondering if you found it on TikTok with the music first, or did you find it on YouTube and then TikTok fed it to you or something like that? I just thought that was really interesting.
So I saw it on TikTok first, a snippet of it on TikTok that someone had put music over it, their own music. And then I searched it on YouTube and found the original without the music. I thought it was really cool how this creator chose to add their own music. And I think there's a lot of people who do things like this with silent film where they'll make their own score. And I think especially with a more abstract piece, you can take a bit more liberty with how you interpret the score as opposed to a more narrative piece. There's a lot of unique art projects on the internet of people adding their own touches to works and making it sort of a collaborative thing while leaving the original intact, but just adding something to enhance.
And I love that. It's art across decades and art across timescapes, and because art's always speaking to the past, the future, the present, it's just really neat.
Excuse me, art is speaking.
Yeah.
This one, it had like a minimalist vibe too.
Sure, yeah. And like kaleidoscopic, I would say about it, like almost that it was like one, you would look through a kaleidoscope and it would be like these like moving pieces and parts and stuff. So it was like trippy in that sense.
And I'm trying to think of like what art movements were going on like in the visual arts at this time, and I think there were some like really like minimalist pieces that were popular at this time, and it seems like this might have been influenced by that. Sort of these almost like spiritual shapes that are very simplified and very grandiose.
It's interesting that you say that too, because like when I first started watching it, I was like, okay, there's some kind of pattern to this, because like first it was circles, and then it was columns, and then it kind of turned into like pyramid triangles. Then they added squares in, but then it just kind of went all over the place, and there were like dots and like the pointillism and that sort of thing. And I was thinking about it in the sense that like how much of this piece was like planned out to frame by frame versus kind of like an improv type of, like just let it flow out of the artist.
Kind of seems sort of like an etude or like a study or something by the artist. Like I'm assuming it was just made by one person.
Yeah, I think it was. I think it was just this Robert Breer.
Yeah, so it kind of seems sort of like just like an experiment, seeing what can I do with you said spray paint, stencils.
Spray paint and stencils and film.
And just sort of seeing what happens.
Yeah.
And, I'm usually more a fan of narrative work, but I really did like this piece because it doesn't overstay its welcome.
Yeah, totally.
It's honest, it's cool, but it wasn't trying to be anything other than what it was. It wasn't pretentious. It was just these really inspired shapes and colors and movements. Yeah, I could see how it could influence people. I think it's important to consume non-narrative work sometimes as inspiration for narrative work. I think that's something we see in film a lot, where film will be influenced by visual art, which I don't want to say it's static, but it is immediately aesthetic in the sense that like, it's not moving, but you can be influenced by like the visual language of visual art and paintings and such, and you can import that into a narrative piece like film or theater or whatever. So
yeah, and how this would work with other types of art that isn't music in a way that like maybe modern folks could bring it into, who knows, their visual art, their storytelling, poetry, and any kind of art. This one really just feels ripe for collaboration to me. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and Robert Breer, he seems like he was quite active in animation and in this period, and he's lifelong animator. So we will probably cover another one of his animations.
Yeah, and I think he's American too, and we don't do quite a lot of American stuff, so that's interesting too that we come back to someone from the U.S. But
I definitely want to see more work from him because I thought it was inspiring and also meditative.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think if you like ASMR, like I feel like this could be like there's like visual ASMR, and I feel like this could kind of like calm you down, especially with like the pauses in between each animation to give you.
Yeah, as long as you're okay with the flashing lights. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank y'all. And this has been another episode of 70s Daydreams.
Yeah, stick around.
Bye.
Thank you.